You lost everything. The money's gone. The direction vanished. You wake up, and the mirror shows a stranger wearing your face. Maybe it was a business that collapsed, a relationship that detonated, a career that imploded. Or maybe you just woke up one morning and realized you've been drifting for years, building nothing, becoming nothing. Here's what nobody tells you about rock bottom. It's not the end. It's the foundation. Miyamoto Musashi spent his entire life studying one question. How does a man rebuild when the world has crushed him? Not through hope, not through affirmations, through earth, through structure, through the cold physics of reconstruction. This is the Book of Earth Protocol, the tactical manual for men who lost everything and need to forge pride again. Not the pride you had before, something harder, something the world can't take from you. Musashi wrote 5 books: Water, Fire, Wind, Void. But he started with Earth. Why? Because Earth is foundation. It's the ground beneath your feet when everything else is burning. In his system, Earth represents the fundamentals, the non-negotiable structure that holds everything else together. Without Earth, you're building castles in your mind while standing in quicksand. Most men skip this step. They want the flashy comeback, the redemption arc, the viral transformation. But that's not how reconstruction works. You don't rebuild a house by starting with the roof. You start by clearing the wreckage and pouring concrete. The philosophy of grounding means hitting rock bottom isn't failure. It's the first honest moment you've had in years. When you're at zero, the delusions stop. The excuses evaporate. You can finally see the damage without the comforting lies you've been telling yourself. This is what Musashi called perceiving the truth of things. Not what you wish were true. What is true? Here's the ruthless inventory. Sit down, take 1 hour, write 3 lists. First list, what you lost. Money, respect, relationships, time, health. Don't sugarcoat it. Second list, how you contributed to the loss. Not victim language, ownership language. What decisions led here? What patterns? What weaknesses? Third list, what's still standing, even if it's just your breath and your ability to think. Most men can't complete this exercise. Their ego screams. Their pride revolts. But Musashi didn't care about your feelings. He cared about winning. And you can't win a war if you don't know your real position on the battlefield. Now, the debris, toxic ties and habits. This is where men fail the protocol. They try to rebuild while keeping the same friends who mock discipline, the same routines that bled them dry, the same digital addictions that stole their attention for years. Cut them, not gradually, immediately. Musashi fought 60 duels. He won every one because he understood a simple truth. You cannot fight 2 enemies at once. Choose your battle. Eliminate everything else. Delete the apps. Block the numbers. Cancel the subscriptions. Stop going to places where the old version of you lived. This isn't cruelty. This is surgery. You're removing the infection before it spreads. The modern brain hates this. It wants dopamine. It wants comfort. It wants the familiar poison. But your brain is lying to you. It's optimized for survival in a world that no longer exists. You're reprogramming it for war. September 1600. Sekigahara. The largest battle in samurai history. Over 150,000 warriors. 2 armies. 1 field. Musashi was 17 years old, fighting for the losing side. The Tokugawa forces crushed the Western Army. 30,000 men died in 6 hours. The field turned to mud and blood. Musashi's side lost, completely. His commanders were executed, his allies scattered. He had no money, no master, no clan, just a sword and the clothes soaked with someone else's blood. Most samurai in his position would commit seppuku, ritual suicide. Honor demanded it. But Musashi looked at the corpses and made a different calculation. He asked himself one question: what can I learn from this? He didn't romanticize the defeat. He studied it. Why did his side lose? Poor communication, betrayal, overconfidence. He realized something that would define his entire philosophy. Survival beats honor. Adaptation beats tradition. A dead samurai proves nothing. A living samurai can train, improve, and win the next war. So he walked away. Not in shame, in strategy. He disappeared into the mountains. For months, he lived alone. He rebuilt his body first. Not because it was noble, because a weak body creates a weak mind. He trained until his hands bled. He practiced sword forms until muscle memory replaced thought. He ate simply: rice, fish, water. No alcohol, no distractions. Physical reconstruction isn't about looking good. It's about building the temple that houses your consciousness. Then, financial triage. Musashi had nothing, but he understood bleeding. In combat, you stop the bleeding before you treat the wound. He took work as a laborer, undignified work, carrying stones, building walls. But it paid. He didn't spend. He saved. Every coin became future freedom. He wasn't building wealth. He was building options. This is the part modern men refuse to accept. Reconstruction isn't sexy. It's repetitive, humiliating, and slow. You're not the hero yet. You're the carpenter rebuilding the stage where the hero will eventually stand. Musashi spent years in obscurity. No one knew his name. He didn't care. He was preparing. The lesson from Sekigahara: defeat reveals what victory hides. When you win, you assume your strategy was perfect. When you lose, you're forced to see the cracks. Musashi lost at 17. By 30, he was undefeated. The loss wasn't the end. It was the blueprint: social isolation. Musashi called it the monk phase. For 3 years after Sekigahara, he barely spoke to another human. Not because he was depressed, because he was studying. The modern world calls this loneliness. Musashi called it the warrior's laboratory. Here's why isolation works. Every conversation costs attention. Every social obligation drains energy. Every friend who's still living the old way pulls you backward. During reconstruction, you cannot afford leaks. Your attention is your most limited resource. Protect it, like a general protects his supply lines. This doesn't mean permanent hermit life. It means strategic withdrawal. 6 months, maybe a year. Delete social media. Stop going to bars. Stop explaining yourself to people who don't understand discipline. They'll call you cold, obsessed, changed. Good. You are changing. That's the entire point. Musashi wrote about the stance with no stance. In combat, if you commit to one position, you're predictable. If you're adaptable, you're infinite. This applies to reconstruction. Don't lock yourself into one rigid plan. The job market shifts. Opportunities appear. Obstacles materialize. Your strategy must be water, flowing around resistance, filling whatever container it finds. Most men fail here because they confuse planning with flexibility. They create a 5-year blueprint and treat it like scripture. Then reality changes, and they collapse. Musashi's approach: know your objective. Remain fluid in execution. The objective is simple: rebuild strength, resources, and purpose. The path? It changes daily. Now the daily ritual. Musashi's routine wasn't complicated. It was consistent. He woke before dawn, trained his body, studied strategy, ate 1 or 2 meals, worked on his craft, slept early, repeated, 7 days a week, no weekends, no cheat days, no motivation required, just protocol. Build your version. Start with 5 non-negotiables. Mine looked like this. Wake at 5, train for 1 hour, work for 8, read for 1, sleep by 10. No exceptions, no negotiations with yourself. Your brain will beg for flexibility. Deny it. Discipline isn't about doing hard things when you feel motivated. It's about doing necessary things when motivation is dead. The samurai morning, specifically. Cold water on your face. 10 minutes of silence. No phone, no news, no input. Just breath and awareness. Then movement. Push-ups. Squats. Stretching. You're not training for aesthetics. You're proving to yourself that you control your body. If you can't control your body, you can't control your life. The trap of nostalgia will kill you faster than any enemy. Musashi never looked back. Not at Sekigahara. Not at lost friends. Not at the man he used to be. Backward focus is how warriors die. You're not that person anymore. The life you lost? It's gone. Mourning it is a luxury you cannot afford. Here's the neurological reality. Every time you replay the past, you strengthen those neural pathways. You're literally training your brain to live in a world that doesn't exist. Stop. When the memory surfaces, acknowledge it once, then redirect. You're building new pathways now. Forward only. Cut the people who keep reminding you of who you were. The friends who say, "Remember when?" The family who asks when you're going back to normal. There is no normal. There's only the next version. Anyone trying to pull you backward is an enemy combatant. Treat them accordingly. Finding your new weapon. Musashi mastered the sword, but he also studied carpentry, painting, sculpture, and writing. Why? Because a warrior with one skill is a warrior with one option. You need a skill that generates value, not passion. Value. What can you do that someone will pay for? If you don't know, pick something with 3 qualities. It's learnable in 6 months, it's in demand, and it doesn't require permission. Web development, copywriting, video editing, welding, plumbing. Doesn't matter. Pick one. Commit 6 months of obsessive focus. 3 hours daily. No exceptions. At the end, you'll have a weapon. Most men fail here because they want the skill to feel meaningful. Forget meaning. Meaning comes later. Right now, you need money and momentum. Pick the skill that gets you both fastest. Patience as a weapon. This is where modern men break. They want results in 30 days. Musashi trained for decades. He fought his first duel at 13, his last at 60. He understood something most men never learn. Slow construction builds structures that last. Fast construction builds houses that collapse. You're not building a comeback. You're building a fortress. Fortresses take years. Every day you show up is one stone placed. You won't see progress for months. You'll want to quit. Your friends will move faster. Your old rivals will succeed publicly. Ignore them. They're building facades. You're building foundations. The long game of reconstruction means accepting that you'll be invisible for a while. Unknown. Unremarkable. Working when no one's watching. Training when no one cares. Building when no one believes. This is the furnace. This is where weak men quit, and strong men are forged. Jordan Peterson talks about order from chaos. He's right, but he's missing the edge. Order isn't therapy. It's warfare. You're not arranging your life. You're fortifying your position against an enemy that never sleeps: entropy, distraction, and your own weakness. The final blueprint is simple. Not easy. Simple. 3 layers. First layer, physical sovereignty. Your body obeys you completely. No addictions, no dependencies. You sleep when you decide. You wake when you command. You eat what serves the mission. Second layer, financial resilience. 6 months of expenses saved. 1 skill that generates income. 0 debt. Third layer, psychological fortress. You know who you are. You know what you're building. External validation doesn't move you. How to never break again? You don't. That's the lie. You'll break. Everyone breaks. Musashi lost at Sekigahara. But breaking isn't failure. Staying broken is failure. The difference between men who rebuild and men who rot is this: response time. How fast do you get back up? Build the system that makes getting up automatic. Your daily ritual isn't optional. Your training isn't negotiable. Your standards aren't flexible. When you break, the system catches you. You don't need motivation. You have protocol. Here's the choice you're facing right now. You can close this video and go back to scrolling. Back to comfort. Back to the slow death of distraction and mediocrity. Or you can commit, not to feeling better, to building better, to becoming the kind of man who doesn't break when the world pushes. The kind of man who stands in the ruins and says, "Good. Now I know what needs to be rebuilt." Musashi spent his life proving one theorem: the prepared man owns the future. Not the talented man. Not the lucky man. The prepared man. You're at 0. That's not a curse. That's clarity. You know exactly where you stand. You know exactly what needs to happen. Most men never get this gift. They spend their entire lives comfortable and confused, building nothing that lasts. You have the blueprint, the book of earth. Foundation first. Body, money, mind. Isolation, skill, patience. The question isn't whether you can rebuild. The question is whether you will. Because the world doesn't care. Your excuses don't matter. Your past doesn't define your future. Only your next decision does. Join the Katana Mindset Battalion. Subscribe. This isn't a channel. It's a training ground. We're building men who don't break, who don't quit, who understand that discipline isn't punishment. It's the only path to freedom. Master yourself, or the world will master you.